podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Never mind about football. How are you?
I'm all right. Yeah. On the road still in San Francisco at the moment. One hotel after another.
Sorry we couldn't do a show after the Manchester derby. The Pacific time zone got the best of us, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, it did. And a very heavy schedule. So, but I will be back in Blighty soon.
Nice.
To get on the terraces and chant Jose out. Are we there yet?
Much like the Pacific time zone got the best of us, Pep Guardiola got the best of Jose Mourinho, didn't he?
Yeah.
An absolute battering for 40 minutes in that game.
Yeah, City completely on top in the opening, well, definitely the opening half an hour. I suppose most of the first half. Oddly slow start from United. You know, it almost felt United just weren't very coherent, and that hadn't been what we'd seen from the United team to that point. Very different display. And then I suppose, the credit goes to City for doing what City now do under Pep. He's very quickly turned them into a Pep side.
I mean, it is absolutely remarkable. I'm sure people are sick of hearing about this, but it really is remarkable how quickly they look like a completely different football team, and it makes a complete laughingstock of Van Gaal's 3-month principle. Pep is clearly a much better communicator of ideas. I was talking about sat on the terraces. I was sat on the Stretford End for that one, which was in Stretford End Upper, which was brilliant for atmosphere, especially as United rallied, and there was actually a really good atmosphere in there. But it was also brilliant in terms of looking at the tactics of the game, and they were completely fascinating from start to finish. Rob Pollard said to me the week before that Pep played with his wingers extremely wide, and he really wasn't exaggerating. So even if the ball is as far away as it could be on the right-hand side, Nolito's still hugging the touchline on the left, and the consequences of which, so obviously United's fullbacks pull in to make a kind of compacted back four, and there's just a huge amount of space. So if they can get the ball out there quickly, then the space kind of concertinas out as the fullback goes across, and then the centre-backs have to catch up with him. And that just was exactly what did for United. And I feel like my working assumption for this game was that it would take less time for Mourinho to impose his style of play and his instructions on the team than it would Pep, and that would serve us well. But actually, I think we really struggled with Jose Mourinho's instructions, because it looked to me like the instructions were sit deep, don't even start pressing until they're well into your half. But United just weren't disciplined enough for that. And would, especially Rooney, starts tearing after people and pressing really early on.
Well, that is as Rooney does, isn't it? It impresses some people, apparently. The big personnel decision was around Mkhitaryan and Lingard. Seemed an odd one. Mkhitaryan, having apparently been injured on international duty, came in for his first start in the derby. It kind of showed.
And another pet theory of mine is that he was always saving Mkhitaryan for this game. He was always going to play Mkhitaryan in this game. And that was the plan all along. But yeah, the ring rust was evident. And Lingard, and Mkhitaryan actually grew into the half. By the end of the first half, he looked a lot better than he'd done in those shaky early periods. But Jesse Lingard was a total mess. That I love the kid. I really am rooting for Lingard. Was so delighted when he scored in the FA Cup final, but that performance was really shocking. I think he said something about it on social media afterwards, apologising.
Yeah, when are we going to see him next? Might not be in 2016. Mourinho being a manager who definitely bears grudges. So, yes, horrible performance. And then elsewhere, I mean, Pogba quiet, although not as bad as some of his performances have been. This is becoming a concern, right? So we can push it forward through to the game against Watford, also very quiet there, and they still haven't found his role. So he was deep against Manchester City, much further forward against Watford. The tactics changed against Watford, which I guess we'll get on to. So they haven't found the role that Pogba needs to play. Fellaini, clearly okay when he doesn't have to defend. He's actually had a decent season as long as he's not defending. Mkhitaryan and Lingard so rusty to come into this game, and Rooney herring around like a headless chicken. He's going to work until his legs actually fall off. There's just no quality in those legs, is there, anymore? And Ibrahimovic, well, Mourinho said 1 chance, 1 goal. It's not been the case, has it? He's actually needing several chances and getting them and still getting some goals. But there's some definite... I mean, it's not just 3 defeats in a row. I think especially in the Watford game... and partly in the Manchester City game, it's the coherence of United's defending as a team and the ability to take chances up front. And those two things kind of usually combine to not great results.
Yeah, Ibrahimovic scored an amazing goal in the Manchester derby. It was like a stunning finish. And then a few seconds later, he obviously thought that there was no one between him and the goal when Bravo made a second howler in quick succession. And Lingard, I think Ibrahimovic was surprised that Lingard had slipped the ball across to him. And I really do think that was the Zlatan principle in effect, really, because I think Lingard saw Ibrahimovic there and that really influenced his thinking and made him pass when he might have shot if it had been someone less kind of obviously dramatically imposing in his peripheral vision. There's a kind of unconscious decision there, and it was probably the wrong one. But Ibrahimovic obviously still probably should have done better, and I guess he would have done if he'd known Stones was there. And then actually I really thought United wouldn't go on to win that game because Bravo looked a total mess at that point.
Well, we talked about it in the preview, didn't we? I mean, it's such an obvious call. I don't know. I mean, he's in his 30s now, Bravo. I don't know that he's suddenly going to develop any kind of quality in the air, right? So he's been bought because he's great with the ball at his feet. Awesome. I mean, we know what tactics every team that plays Manchester City is going to adopt now, don't we? It's just they won't get the ball for 85% of the time.
Yeah, and in Pep's defence, one of the reasons they won't get the ball is because their goalkeeper's so good with his feet. Like, it will make a huge difference to their ball retention. That's why he prioritises it so highly.
Yep. Yeah, so United much better in the second half.
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say. I mean, obviously getting the goal just before half-time really helps with the kind of sense of confidence and actually finally in the game. And then made some changes. Herrera and Martial came on. A lot more coherence to United's attack. And could have got something out of this game. I'm not sure on the balance of everything they would have deserved it. But much better after the break.
Yeah, Herrera and Rashford came on at half-time, and Rashford started absolutely tearing City apart. And very quickly after that, Guardiola took off Iheanacho, completely changed it, and that completely... United were brilliant for the first 10 minutes after the second half, but as soon as that substitution happened, United were full of... They made chances, but they were also conceding. City were good as well after that. It wasn't a complete game of two halves in that sense, that United somehow totally dominated the second half. But it was just interesting to watch these two managers go tactic for tactic. And Mourinho started getting the United players to man-mark City's back three, as it was when Bravo had the ball. So Pogba, Ibrahimovic and Rooney were all on a player each. Or Rashford, Ibrahimovic and Rooney were on a player each because Rooney was playing wide on the right in a 4-3-3, one of about 40 positions he's played in the last week and a half to try and crowbar him into the side, even though he should be nowhere near it.
Yeah, well, I mean, for England, Rooney said that... What did he say? He was happy playing in midfield, and Allardyce said, "I'm happy he can play anywhere." And talk about a starstruck manager. So I'm not sure he's playing anywhere, right? I mean, he's all over the place, but there doesn't appear to be a defined role, and he's not very good in any of them. So, I mean, as I said, his single trait at the moment is that he's going to work harder than everyone else. You cannot fault that.
Nope.
I mean, except it's just there's a total lack of discipline, which doesn't help United at all.
He's become Steven Gerrard. That is exactly what has happened to Rooney. He's become latter-day Steven Gerrard, a player that shouldn't be in the team anymore, that's in the team because of sentiment and reputation and contract and status. I don't mean a contract clause, I just mean he's on a huge wage relative to the rest of the squad. It's I'm as I've said so many times on this show, I'm bored with my own thoughts about this. But the people that, like, we were terrible against Feyenoord, and like, I saw loads of snarky, I see we're still bad even without Rooney in the team. It's like, yes, all right. What about the hundreds of times Rooney's played terribly now at this point? Maybe not hundreds, but tens and tens and tens of times.
History. Yeah.
Yeah. What about the tens and tens of games where Rooney's been completely shocking? How about that? And yeah, anyway, he was all right in the Manchester derby. This Rooney ire is actually based on his performance against Watford. He wasn't completely dreadful against City, and he should have won a penalty. Like, United were really unlucky not to get something out of that game. They might have been a little lucky to still be in it, given how many chances they gave away. But in the end, on the balance of I don't know, the patterns of play of that game, there was no luck to City winning it. But on the balance of the minutiae of that game, actually, City were quite lucky to get 3 points.
Yeah, Mark Clattenburg, discuss.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched loads of it back on television because I had a week off Bleacher Report, so I didn't have to, and I couldn't face it doing it for leisure. So I've only seen it from the Stretford end, which has got to be the worst place on the planet to try and decide whether a referee's got a decision against United right or not. But
yeah, there's a few rose tinted glasses there, or red tinted glasses, aren't there?
The funniest thing that I heard in that game was there's a guy standing a few rows behind me who just shouts, "You're letting them pass it round you!" And I was like, mate, do you know who the opposition manager is? It's Pep Guardiola.
So, I mean, look, our friend Adam Joseph wrote a piece on Rant after the game, comparing the two sides, man for man, quality for quality. He just had City edging it. But, I think from this point, it's hard not to feel a bit depressed about how good City are at the moment. Not only just the options and how quickly they've settled into the pattern, but how much more he's getting out of some players. I mean, Kevin De Bruyne, if there's a better player on the planet right now than De Bruyne, I'm not sure who it is. He scored one goal, made it look easy, but it was actually a very difficult finish. Hit the woodwork twice in that game. He can play on the wing, through the middle. He's playing in central midfield at the moment. He's completely devastating wherever. Silva appears to have found his form again. Iheanacho scored. We wondered whether he'd play or not, but he scored. Wasn't brilliant, and he seems to have got loads out of Raheem Sterling. Worrying, all of it, and John Stones isn't making mistakes. He's suddenly turned into the defender many people thought he could be. Don't like these signs, and whereas United feel a little bit incoherent at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like a lot of that was actually quite predictable. It's not, none of those things individually are a huge surprise. Oh, Guardiola's getting loads out of John Stones. What a shock. Oh, wait a minute. Raheem Sterling isn't terrible. He just struggled with the pressure of the size of the move and going to a club where Pellegrini was the manager after Pellegrini was completely mentally checked out. None of this is... And Guardiola's getting a tune out of David Silva. I mean... None of it's a surprise, and maybe the speed at which it's happened is a surprise, and maybe just how good they look right now is a surprise. I mean, as the kind of, in terms of the big picture of the season, it is only September, and I think City looked really good this time last year as well. I mean, obviously you would imagine they're not going to have the same kind of collapse, but Guardiola does demand a lot out of them, and that it is going to be tough in the winter for them, but it's going to be tough in the winter for us too, and what Mourinho's done since the Manchester derby is lurch like a kind of punch-drunk fighter, really, because Feyenoord, he rested a bunch of players, but played a very high-quality team, including a midfield three that many of us have been calling for, and United were just complete. There was nothing wrong with that team. Apart from Marcus Rojo's the only player in that 11 that you go, oh, not sure about that.
Is that your reaction? Oh, not sure about that. What the hell is he still at this club for?
Yeah. There's a really good article in this month's 442 that I've been thinking about a lot. And it's about how football is a sport to which O-ring theory applies really well. And O-ring theory is based on the tragedy of the Challenger shuttle disaster, where an O-ring, which is a tiny, I think it's like a washer type round thing, that was the part that failed because that hadn't been tested in the right temperature conditions for the Challenger. And that was what led to the whole explosion and loads of loss of life. That's a very serious thing to then transpose to football. But the theory is that football is a sport whereby the strongest players in the team actually are not the players that bring the most influence to bear on potential results. Football is won by the team with the strongest weak link. So whoever's weakest link is actually the strongest is likely to thrive. And I feel like United's last couple of weeks have been defined by O-ring theory. So it doesn't matter how many brilliant players you bring into this side, can't do anything if your weakest links are not strong enough.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, certainly playing Rojo at left back is going to help nobody. I didn't see the Feyenoord game at all, so give me a rundown on what happened.
It was just horrible. Like, nothing United tried came off. They looked like they had a terrible Manchester derby hangover and a load of players that were... The front three didn't work at all, even though you would have definitely thought it should. I think you kind of... It feels like being a bit picky because you're like, okay, what I think United should do is play a 4-3-3 with Schneiderlin, Herrera and Pogba in the middle and a front three of like Ibrahimovic in the middle, Rashford and Martial, say. The front three they played against Watford, actually, which was probably the most effective part of the team. But he didn't quite do that. He did all of that except on the right. He had Rashford up front, Martial on the left and Juan Mata on the right. And that was just such a bad selection because then Mata becomes the weakest link in the team, not because he's a bad player, but because he's playing out of position and he can't keep up with the pace of those attacks. And so he's always trying to do the kind of artful, crafty thing, but everyone else is kind of just like a bit more high octane than that. And so the game ends up slightly passing him by. And then, just Rocco just looked a complete liability and we conceded and we're kind of unlucky not to get something in the dying embers of that game. But wow, what a frustrating game of football. You did not miss anything.
But the switch to 4-3-3, I mean, so Pogba there playing as the attacking of those three central midfield players. And we saw that again against Watford, didn't we? So, the theory goes, and we've talked about this a lot, that releases Pogba. And this can get the best out of the United team. It didn't, apparently.
No, but it did get more out of Pogba. But then again, you also think, like, this is, again, it feels really picky. But my idea for how you would construct those three is to play with the triangle pointing backward, as they say, with Schneiderlin at the base and Herrera and Pogba somewhat both free to roam. But actually, it was a triangle pointing forward 4-3-3 with Pogba as the sort of pseudo number 10 rather than the left of two number 8s,
Right, which is where he played for Juve so well last season.
Absolutely. And actually, we did get more out of Pogba in the Feyenoord game. And again, we did get more out of Pogba in the first half against Watford until the switch was made to start getting more out of Rooney instead.
Always works, that one, don't you think?
Yeah, and Pogba, like, oh man, I got so angry. I saw somebody call Pogba lazy after the Manchester derby, and honestly, I had smoke coming out of my ears. I'm like, you're literally talking about one of the fittest human beings on the planet. Like, it is impossible to be Paul Pogba and be lazy. Like, he definitely...
Yeah. Was it Ron Atkinson saying that?
It wasn't, but I suspect like the people are not really analysing where some of those thoughts come from in a historical context, shall we say. Anyway.
Yeah, so how was Dirk Kuyt, 39-year-old Dirk Kuyt, or however old he is now?
I think he said after the game that he was happy for his Feyenoord friends and for his Liverpool friends. Feyenoord fans were singing Gloriously Small Time. I don't believe they were one of those teams that sings You'll Never Walk Alone, but they were singing it because United were in town.
Yeah.
It was just a dreadful game of football.
Well,
which the Manchester derby wasn't. The Manchester derby was an absolutely cracking game of football, and
it was a cracking game of football and very entertaining. It's unfortunate that the goals went in the wrong end. And actually, this is the problem because 7 games United played this season, just the 2 clean sheets. Do we need Van Gaal back in to coach the defenders? One
of those was against Hull, and actually the game against Southampton was really lucky that it was a clean sheet. It's crazy. The Mourinho team that looks completely bereft of organisation, and he's been really reactive too. Because Blint had a bad game against City. I don't know if he actually had a bad game. He made a bad mistake against City.
Yeah.
And then
I think that's the thing that always influences my thinking about Blint.
Yeah.
Because they come in clutches, and he made a couple of bad mistakes against City, and they do seem to, I don't know what the error rate to goals conceded is with Blint, but it feels high, and that's only anecdotal.
Yeah.
And you're right. Mourinho was reactive, dropped him straight away. Smalling came in. Obviously I didn't see the Feyenoord game, but he was pretty dreadful against Watford. Smalling,
absolutely.
Bailly too. I mean, for Watford's second goal. Late in the game, I think Bailly's been turned around like 3 times. He's missed the challenge, and then he's been turned by success twice, and got out of position. It's horrible.
Yeah, it was the third, wasn't it? That was was that the penalty? I think it was. That was
for the penalty. Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
But I mean, it's also not a huge surprise that Bailly looks better alongside Blint, because I think Blint's one of those defenders, isn't he? He's one of those He's a very cerebral defender, so I'm sure he does a lot of...
He's terrible and makes his partner look good, that's right? That's what you're saying?
No, absolutely not. But yeah, that was, the final game was a total mess. And talking of total messes, I don't know. I don't even know what to say about that Watford game. I've talked a lot. Ed, it's your turn. Tell me what you thought of that Watford game.
Oh, I thought it was horrible. I mean, United were terrible for the first half. And, it's like we've talked about Jose being sort of this tactical genius. And Watford going with 3 at the back, you're thinking, wow, the fullbacks are going to get tons of space here. And the switch ball from left to right and the other way round is definitely on. And all you need is just a bit of calmness in central midfield in order to, in order to exploit that. Because really, United should really have been, because you got Janmaat and Holeblas who push forward as well as the wing backs, and United should have had loads of space behind them, loads. And it didn't work like that. What you actually got was, in Watford central midfield, tons more energy from Birami, Pereira and Capoue, who's very good. And total incoherence from Fellaini, who doesn't track his man. The one time he did track his man, he gave a penalty. From Pogba, was he further forward? Was he further back? I mean, it looked like he started the game pushing forward, hit the bar with a great shot at one point, and then Rooney, he was just everywhere and nowhere all at the same time. And there are very few bright spots from that game, and I guess the analysis is clouded by the fact that Watford scored 2 late goals, and it's 3-1, it's a heavy defeat, and you just come off that feeling really bad. But I don't think even up till those 2 late goals, United were in this game much, lots and lots of possession. Always felt like Watford are dangerous, and especially from set pieces.
My friend Joe, before that game, sent me a WhatsApp message saying, could this be the tallest team in United's history? You add up all the heights and divide it by 11. That might be the tallest 11 United have ever fielded. And they got really dominated in the air, which is very strange. You got Pogba, Ibrahimovic, Fellaini, Smalling. There's so much height in that team. But yeah, just totally dominated. And they were good. United were really good for 15 minutes after the goal, and that was it. Yeah. That was the only fluid play all day.
No, I think that's about right, yeah. I mean, let's talk about the opening goal, because there's some controversy about that. We had Hoddle and Savage on BT going, fair challenge. I was looking at it, I looked about like 10 times. I'm going, Christ, he's taken both legs. Yes, he's got a toe on the ball, but, are you allowed to break someone's legs and just nick a toe on the ball? It seemed like an obvious foul to me. Mourinho definitely wasn't happy about that in the aftermath. And I guess the damage had been done to Martial with the challenge a few minutes before that. In retrospect, that looks like it's pretty dangerous to have kept him on the pitch, right? Close to a concussion or something like that.
Yeah.
So a bit unlucky for United there, but this was a head of steam that Watford had been building.
You say in retrospect it looked dangerous to keep Martial on the pitch. Did anyone watching that not think it in real time as it was happening? That here was a kid who looked dazed out of his mind, that I don't know how not to be a broken record about this, but when is football going to take concussion seriously? Isn't it one of the most important things they should be considering in a moment like that? I don't know, it's really odd.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the team doctor's call, right? Mourinho wouldn't spark up a fight with his medical team, would he?
It might just do.
So, yeah, I mean, it wasn't great from Martial up till then. I mean, he was hardly in the game, right? And I guess Young came on for him, looked actually quite bright until he switched to right back. And you had this kind of musical chairs situation with the tactics where Pogba started further forward, then went deep, then Rooney was in the hole, sort of. Fellaini was still the defensive man for most of the game, although he wasn't tracking any runners at all. And United changed around the back four. Both fullbacks came off. Hint of Van Gaal there. I mean, it's just total mess. Much like my analysis of the game, completely incoherent.
No, I think your analysis was a lot more coherent. Actually, it's something we didn't say about the derby, because with 15 minutes to go in that, Mourinho went from having gone from 4-2-3-1 to 4-3-3, he then went to 3-4-3,
right.
Took off Luke Shaw for Martial right at the death and played an incredibly attacking formation. But actually, it's one of those times where getting another forward player on the pitch somewhat unbalances the team, and they were very vulnerable from that. And actually, but Pogba looked a bit better for that spell. Like he looked kind of released and played very far forward for a lot of that, and looked like he might actually have ended up being quite influential. And I think people are understandably frustrated because of the size of the transfer fee and the kind of hype around it. I don't know how you could expect an awful lot more for him given how he's being used, really. Like, given the team around him, like he's not Messi, he's not Ronaldo. That's not his game, but he wasn't bought to be that. He's never done those kind of numbers. I think it's eight goals and 12 assists in the league last season. That's not 40 and 40, is it? Yeah, he needs a team around him, and at the moment he hasn't got one.
He does, yeah.
It's amazing how quickly the honeymoon has just gone crashing down to earth. The first 25, 30 minutes of the Manchester derby, and August seems like a long, long time ago.
August was good, wasn't it? Remember then?
Great.
Yeah, enjoyed that.
Terrific.
Yeah. True, but I don't think we should panic. Look at the bench for that game against Watford. Apart from Romero, you've got decent quality on that bench. United have got a good squad here. Mourinho has a history of building, very effective teams. I'm certainly not hitting the panic button after 3 defeats. The manner of, how United... let's dismiss the derby a little bit, because City were just so good for 40 minutes or so. And there were some positives to come out of that game. You're saying it was horrible against Feyenoord, 8 changes or whatever, so we can push that one aside. Watford worried me, because, this was a team that just didn't look like they'd got what their manager's trying to tell them, or he's being very inconsistent in his thinking. And that kind of feels a little bit like that. We just need him to make some decisions. And there's a really big one he definitely needs to make. The big one that, shall not speak its name.
He's got to go. Not Mourinho. He's
Mourinho out.
At this point, I genuinely have got an agenda. At this point, I am working off an agenda. I won't let it cloud me to the good things he's done. In fact, everyone was screaming for him to be substituted against Watford, and I had a lot of sympathy for that, and internally I was kind of screaming for it too. And actually, just before Valencia got taken off and Mata came on, Rooney just played an abysmal pass, and I wondered if Mourinho might not just whisper to the guy with the board, actually change that to from 25 to 10. But of course he didn't. But I understand why you don't take Rooney off, because even when he's total garbage, he does something good sometimes. But the price we are paying to have him in the team is ridiculous. I'm not apologising for how I see this anymore. It's ridiculous. And he'll still have good games, sure. He'll definitely still have outstanding moments. Like you said earlier, he'll work harder than anyone else on that team, and that is a quality to be praised. And he'll handle the captaincy respectfully and deal with the referee well and be a positive influence in the dressing room or whatever. But he should not be in that team as an automatic starter. It's ridiculous.
Yes. Good rant, that one. Yeah.
An actual rant.
No, I mean, you're right. Look, so Ibrahimovic, Rashford and Martial are better options up front. You got Mata, Mkhitaryan, Pogba, better options in the whole. You got Rashford, Depay, Young, better options on the left wing. You've got Mkhitaryan, Valencia, better options on the right wing. I mean, so he's going to end up playing deeper and deeper. We're going to get into a situation where, despite never being a 6 and never being an 8, he's going to be a 6 or an 8, and probably more likely the 6.
Yeah, the not a 6, not even an 8 lasted 5 games. Then he started Rooney as an 8. Like, quite a strange and speedy turnaround of decision making.
I'm not subscribed to conspiracy theories, but it is very odd how there just appears to be nothing Rooney can do to get himself dropped. Very odd. Anyway, this is cheery, isn't it?
I mean, we've been away for like a week and a half and United have lost 3 times. I'll tell you one thing I wanted to say about the Feyenoord game. We had a little chat about where Anthony Martial was playing, and I somebody from Opta sent me a list, a comparative touch map of where he was playing, and it didn't look like he was playing that much deeper this season. But I thought of you when we were playing Feyenoord, because he was literally picking up the ball behind the halfway line and having to run half the length of the pitch with it every time he got it.
Yeah, you did. I didn't reply to your tweet on that one. Yeah, I mean, it may just be my eyes are deceiving me, but it definitely, he has felt like he's getting the ball deeper and with more men in front of him. But I guess he won't be playing in United's next game, will he?
No, not by the looks of it.
If he's got a head injury. Yeah.
I'd be surprised if his ankle's totally all right as well after that. I mean, I don't mean I'd be surprised.
Perfectly fair challenge. What are you talking? Good tackle. Give him a microscopic toe on it before both his legs were smashed.
The Rooney situation has reached such a ridiculous point that Robbie Savage is the only one who will go after him. Like, how did it come to be that Robbie Savage is the voice of reason on Wayne Rooney? And Robbie Savage is saying the thing is, you play a 4-3-3, you're getting out the best out of Pogba. And then he switched to 4-2-3-1 to try and get the best out of Rooney. Doesn't look like he knows what he's doing. And he just kept saying, that's an awful pass by Rooney. And it's like, it felt like he was the kid in the Emperor's New Clothes, kind of pointing in front of all his colleagues, who don't seem to be able to get it into their head that Rooney has not been an exceptionally brilliant footballer for years.
Yeah, I know. It's the class of '92. You know how they coordinate their thinking. There has been zero criticism of Rooney. Zero.
Maybe they've got a book out. We should have tried to get one of them on the show. I don't know if I could bring myself to talk to any of them at the moment. Apart from Gary, I reckon. Gary or Phil. I could still talk to Phil Neville. The Graham Hunter interview with Phil Neville's really good. By the way, well worth a listen if you haven't.
I haven't yet, but I shall go and do it.
2 episodes of his podcast. It's good. All right, should we do some questions from listeners?
Let's do it.
Jake at Bourne_and_red says, I'd like to see Blint at the base of a midfield three with Pogba and Herrera. Would give a lot of attacking licence for Pogba. Discuss. Adam Joseph Sport says, would you like to see Daley Blint played in midfield, as some are suggesting? Is he an answer? I can't help thinking that Adam knows what you think of that, Ed.
Yeah.
At Ashwin3_ says, should we consider playing a 4-3-3 formation to better accommodate Pogba and moving him forward every now and again? Of course, 4-3-3 would make it a problem to find a place for Rooney. Ergo, not happening. That was him, not me. The Blint in midfield question. And I'm going to throw this in for additional chat. At Will Herbert says, can Timothy Fosu-Mensah be our Kante?
Yeah, I have no idea.
It's just to discuss the midfield options in general.
It's midfield options in general do need to be discussed, right? Because it's definitely the weakest part of United's team. Oh, I was going to say the back four didn't look very good the other day, did they? Or today. It's the part of the team that he hasn't found the right pattern for. He's Rooney and Pogba are like 2 automatic picks all the time. and Fellaini is playing almost every game. So that appears to be the sort of triangle, and there's some subtleties around who plays furthest forward in that triangle. For me, there's too many weaknesses defensively, not enough cover, and compromising Pogba too much. So you could solve some of that by removing Rooney from the team and bringing Schneiderlin or Carrick to play as a proper defensive player, but it's not going to solve all the problems. You know, I guess in my head I'd like to see Herrera, Pogba, and one of Schneiderlin or Carrick as the best balance. It hasn't happened yet.
No, I mean, they did play together. The three of them, well, not Carrick, but the other three did play together against Feyenoord, and it didn't look that well balanced. But then that was the first time they'd played together, and it was the first time the front three had played together, and Ibrahimovic wasn't there, and Mata was playing on the right of the front three. So you're always like one step away from just seeing the team that you actually want to see. It'll be interesting to see if we ever do, really. But the notion that you play Blint in midfield, I mean, it does make some sense to me that you would, because he's so good on the ball. And if you play him with Pogba and Herrera, say, there's a ton of energy to cover him. But then, to go back to O-ring theory, Daley Blint's lack of physicality becomes the weakest point of that whole midfield. And to me, you would almost say that actually the whole midfield three might crumble on that. You know, that might just be that there isn't that foundation. So maybe you'd be better off with Schneiderlin's less, that you lose a bit of guile, but you have less of an obvious kind of weak link there in terms of players that opposition players can target and that sort of thing. And Fosu Mensah's a fascinating one, because I just don't think we know yet, do we? We just don't know yet what he's going to become, but there looks to be tons and tons of potential there.
There does, and yeah, I couldn't tell you that he's going to be a world-class defensive midfielder just at the moment. We don't have one in the squad. So I suppose we're going to compromise whatever the selection there. Blint, problem when he plays in central midfield is people just run past him all the time. So lovely on the ball, but as soon as anyone's gone beyond him, that's it, he's done.
That's what they used to say about Michael Carrick, of course. I mean, they were right, but that is what
it is.
Do you think that Jose is abandoning his usual traits due to how badly things ended at Chelsea? United looked so disorganised, says at Nick Gilbert 86.
I don't know if it's Jose abandoning his usual traits. United did look disorganised. I'm not sure I could link it to Chelsea, really. I would start to worry if Jose turns up, with a full-on beard and looking like he's been dragged through a hedge, because that was the time you thought something mentally wasn't quite right with him at Chelsea, and he looks shaved and smart and suitably angry at the moment. I'm happy with that. I don't think he's lost it yet.
No, I was very heartened not to see him in a tracksuit with stubble today, I have to say. I was worried. I mean, as to whether he's abandoned his whole kind of principles of like well-organised football, that seems very unlikely to me. And in fact, if you look at the way we lined up against both City and Feyenoord, against Feyenoord, it almost looked like he was trying to get them to practice, not pressing. It almost looked like he was kind of saying, look, right, try and learn some of these lessons from what happened against City and properly sit in those two banks of four deep and don't start to press until they cross a certain line. It almost looked like he was trying to use it as a bit of a training match, which would make sense given he basically said that he didn't want to be in the Europa League.
Yeah, well, right, yeah. I mean, I think we pretty much said the same thing anyway, didn't we? No, look, there aren't going to be too many tears shed if United disappear from the Europa League. Maybe some of the bean counters will worry about however much money the Europa League brings. It's not very much. I think if United win the Europa League, they make less than out of a couple of Premier League games. I'm not worried about Jose changing it up for the Europa League too much, except if it has an impact on the fluidity United have got in the Premier League, which is clearly the priority this season, and not being fluid too much so far.
Andy United says, surely it can't be long until we see the real Mourinho, i.e. the dark side of him. We need it. I mean, he has already turned Bastian Schweinsteiger into some sort of pumpkin. I believe there was a story which I only just caught a very slight wind of, that Bastian Schweinsteiger's salary is no longer being listed as a first team expense. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was they wrote off his fee actually. So in the accounting, I don't know about that characterisation of it. So in the accounting, they wrote off his fee and made a special exception for it, which is fair enough because they're not going to get a fee for him now. So and it's usual amortisation of it. But, there you go. He's some dead weight, isn't he?
He is. I'm sharing this for humour, ladies and gentlemen, because I realise I've already ranted a lot about Wayne Rooney today. But at Rich Chilver says, if you could dump Rooney to train with the kids but had to play Schweinsteiger every game, would you do it? Like, Schweinsteiger might genuinely bring a bit of balance to our midfield.
Yeah, but, he's not going to... He really isn't going to put the same level of effort in, and that arse is big.
This is true. At Wormito says, can you make the hurt go away? I don't know. Picture Eric Cantona. That might help. And why are we still... Well, I'm going to just change the language slightly. Why are we still terrible, asks at Crossy's FA.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm minded to not feel like we're still terrible and to look at the squad depth and look at Mourinho's record and feel like he will hit on the right answer soon enough, I think it's going to take a little bit of pep-sized big balls to dump a few big names. And he'll find the right balance. Too many compromises at the moment, and he's trying to work through those. So I don't know. I don't feel that negative about it, but maybe I'm just still jet lagged or something.
I think maybe it's just that you didn't watch the Feyenoord game, so you've only had to watch 2 defeats on the bounce, not 3.
That's it. I've only got 66% of your negativity. It'll build up after we get battered by Leicester at the weekend.
This is an interesting theoretical question. Which I think I've got an answer for. At La False number 12 says, would an LVG possession at all costs approach have blunted Manchester City in the derby? It's kind of an interesting question, that. And I think I'm inclined to think that the answer is no, because I think that they would have been better at that game than us, and they would have had some end product with their possession as well. And I think we did cede possession much too early, much too easily in the first half, but that wasn't about style of play. That was about the performances of Lingard and Mkhitaryan in particular.
Yeah. I mean, it's not Mourinho's game anyway, is it? So I think Mourinho would have tended towards being much, much more negative if he really wanted to counter City. And I'm not sure that's how United really started. It started poorly, but I don't think it was because United decided to park the bus. And going for an 80% possession game, it's just not Mourinho's style. He wants players to use the ball in a more direct fashion. I don't mean long balls, but in a more penetrative fashion. And I think United will create a lot of chances this season. They've probably taken fewer than they would have liked to, and I'm going to bet that Mourinho will be able to get the defensive line right, because he normally does.
He just has to make some big decisions. He can't keep doing... Greg Johnson, who is the features editor of Squawker, wrote a really good Facebook post where he said, at the moment, Mourinho's United feels like a football manager save that you start and then realise you're not as into it as you thought you were. So you just play 4-2-3-1, play all the players in their natural position, don't really worry about the rest of it and just hope for the best. And it feels like he does need to start making some really big decisions now.
So a couple of games coming up.
Right, yeah.
Is it going to get better?
I forgot to look up anything about Northampton Town. I'm a bad podcaster. I'm going to that game as well, hopefully. All right, so given a complete absence of preparation, for which I humbly apologise, especially since I've had plenty of time to do it. I've been on holiday. Sorry. But given the complete lack of preparation, I guess maybe worth having a conversation about what United are going to do, how United are going to approach the League Cup this season. In Mourinho's first season at Chelsea, he really prioritised the League Cup. It was the start of the winning habit. I can't quite see him doing that at this time at United.
No, I mean he's going to change it up completely. Surely, we should get to see a few of the younger players and definitely all the fringe players. That's I'm sure, certain, 100% certain that's what's going to happen. We'll see whether it's coherent or not. Northampton, sorry, I'm going to go Shearer on this one. I don't know a lot about them. The arrogance of Premier League fans, the problem, we don't watch League One. Rob Page is the manager. I do kind of remember him, played a very long time at Watford and for Wales. There you go. We should batter them, right?
I've just looked this up on Wikipedia and I'm annoyed I didn't just go with my instinct, because I was going to say, I'm pretty sure their nickname is the Cobblers, and I've just looked it up and their nickname's the Cobblers. So I do, in fact, know something about Northampton.
Cobblers.
Hold on.
Yeah, well, you'll be enjoying Sixfield Stadium, won't you?
They were formed in 1897 after a meeting between the town school teachers and local solicitor A.J. Darnell. There you go. Google tells me they're currently 11th in League One and they've just beaten Walsall yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, they got promoted
last
season, so this is a team that United should be able to field youngsters and fringe players and beat them. And then again, we've had a few negative results in this competition over the last few years, haven't we? Playing that one, Milton Keynes indelibly burned into my mind.
Yeah,
we shouldn't get that this time, now, should we?
Well, I guess it depends because, like you say, youngsters, but other than Fosu Mensah. There isn't anyone in the first team squad. Rashford you can't count him as he started in the Premier League. You can't count him as a youngster in that sense. Obviously, he is young, but he's clearly an established member of the first team rotation. So there aren't any other kids in the first team picture, and a lot of the most promising kids are obviously on loan. So is he going to dip into the result? I tell you what, he should just play Angel Gomez, because that kid is going to be Lionel Messi in 3 years' time.
Yeah, well, he can't stop scoring in the reserves, can he? So, maybe. I mean, I guess we'll see a change in goal, won't we? Romero or Johnson? Which one? Sam Johnson's hardly a youngster. He's about 90, isn't he?
It'll be Romero, I'm sure.
I guess, is Darmian even fit? Will we see him?
Yeah, he played against Feyenoord.
Right.
He played against Feyenoord, and he put in good cross after good cross. It was very odd indeed. I was confused.
I was going to say
he was quite good actually. Generally,
we could see Phil Jones, but of course we won't because he's injured again. Poor old Phil Jones. So maybe we see Marcos Rojo.
Yay!
Will Axel Tuanzebe? He didn't go on loan, did he, Axel Tuanzebe? So he's still hanging around. So we might get to see him.
He's still very, very young as well, isn't he? So that would be really nice. Actually, that would be the one that you would say from the younger crop at the moment that you would most want to see given a first team game. I'd like to see Fosu Mensah in the team. Fosu Mensah and Tuanzebe, I'll be happy. But he played Pogba against Feyenoord, which was a massive surprise. I can't imagine he'll do that here. But I also, if you look at that squad, he can't really play an 11 of players who are entirely fringe players. So there's going to be some first teamers in the squad. I wonder if he might give Memphis a start. Memphis, who was terrible when he came on as a sub in Holland. Poor lamb.
Poor lamb, yeah. It doesn't look like it's going to happen for him at United, does it?
No. Joe Devine wrote a really good column for UMax. The headline was just whether you like it or not, Memphis United's career's over. And I think he's a very talented player, and I think it's somewhat unfortunate concatenation of circumstances, but I just don't see how. It's going to take something of a miracle at this point.
Well, maybe that'll come against Watford. Hat-trick coming up. Watford? Northampton, just a little bit further north than Watford. Maybe he starts and scores a blistering hat-trick and it kickstarts his United career, and he's in the team as champions Leicester come to Old Trafford next weekend.
Yeah, I mean...
Looking forward to this one?
I don't know. I'm scared now because I've started looking forward to United games again. Even with the derby, kind of thought, it's the derby. And then Feyenoord, like you said, loads of changes. It's understandable, although actually it was quite a strong 11. But then, so I was really looking forward to the Watford game, thinking, we'll get back and it'll be great. So now I'm a bit like, I don't know if I feel confident looking forward to a game at this point. Leicester have been struggling a bit, haven't they? Not a big surprise.
Beat Burnley this weekend. Had a very good result in the Champions League against Bruges, didn't they?
Well, I mean, can you call it a very good result against Bruges, the team that Memphis Depay scored a brace against?
True, but it's their first ever Champions League game and they won. Absolutely battered by Liverpool though, and that's kind of one of those results that you go, maybe the wheels will come off Leicester. So they're in mid-table at the moment. Sure, only 5 games gone in the season, so I guess they don't panic just yet. But not quite the same team we saw at the back end of the last season that was scrapping out 1-0 wins every week.
Yeah, it was kind of inevitable, and just in pure football terms, losing Kante is massive, isn't it? It's obviously very important to so much of what they did. But Mahrez hit form again in the Champions League, and so that's a big thing. And The game at Old Trafford was interesting last season. It was one of the games that United were kind of most up for in a way. We were really chasing down a Champions League spot, and also I think probably just didn't want them to win the league at Old Trafford, and they got a 1-1 draw. But I find it impossible to predict. I would have felt so bullish and confident if this game was just before the international break. But now I feel like United are a bit shell-shocked, and that Watford game has me concerned about how quickly Mourinho is going to be able to turn that shell shock around, because you would have thought he'd have been the perfect man to have at the helm after the City and Feyenoord losses to kind of get the team focused and back. But instead he put a very sort of horribly kind of unbalanced team out. That the midfield was a kind of massive compromise and hodgepodge, and if he does that again, I wouldn't be surprised if United won, but I wouldn't feel super confident about it, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the last few games we played against Leicester, I mean, obviously beat them in the Community Shield with that fine goal from now outcast Jesse Lingard. But the 2 games last season were super tight, weren't they? You know, and you wonder whether Leicester will just be able to crank up their quality a little bit for this one. They got really battered by Liverpool. Obviously lost that game on the opening season to Hull, and it kind of derailed them. They had that sort of slightly unfortunate 0-0 draw with Arsenal as well. Not quite found the season yet. You know, maybe this is a game for them to do it. Although, you know, they're playing Chelsea in the League Cup this week, and they've got a very small squad, so I guess they'll make a few changes, but it's not exactly Northampton, is it? And then they've got the home game against Porto on the Tuesday night to come up, and that's obviously going to be a big focus for Leicester. So there's a few distractions around there that might play into United's hands.
So maybe we'll just catch Leicester on an off day and scrape a 1-0.
Well, you look, this is not the Leicester of last season. We always knew that was a freak. I would be surprised if they finish in the top 6, and I think that's fine. You know, it's so this is take away the fact that they're champions. This is a game that United in more fluid mode you'd want to win, but we're not that fluid at the moment, are we?
Yeah, that's the thing. My lack of confidence about this game isn't really about Leicester, it's about United, because this has just been a really horrible week and a half of football. There have been some good spells. There was a very good 15 minutes in the second half of the derby, and they showed a great deal of kind of spirit and willing and all those kind of things. And like, at the end of that game, I think I tweeted this out saying, you know, I've spent 3 years saying, not even bothered whether we win or lose, just want to see us playing kind of the right way, in the right spirit. And there definitely was that in the derby. So yeah, couldn't feel too downhearted about that. But Feyenoord and Watford have knocked the wind out of my sails. They really have, especially Watford, because Feyenoord you could write it off as the Europa League. But that game shows how important it is to not take these kind of midweek distraction games too lightly, because winning breeds winning and losing breeds losing, and we need to turn this around. It's a really important couple of games. I would even say that the game against Northampton is actually quite important, because I think an embarrassing loss could have quite a nasty knock-on effect.
It's all about the narrative, isn't it?
Yeah. It is.
So, predictions for this week? I'm going to go with a 3-0 win against Northampton and a 2-1 win against Leicester.
To be fair to you, Ed, you said you're not that down about United, so this hasn't been an hour of like moaning about how rubbish we are and then predicting 2 wins, because you haven't actually moaned about how rubbish we are, but I have, and I'm going to predict 2 wins. I don't think it's going to be 3-0. I'll go for 2-1, a scrappy win at Northampton, and no, I'm going to go for a draw against Leicester, because that's what I think it's going to be. I think a 1-1 draw.
All right, fair enough. You know, so it's been a terrible week, but it's going to be a good week coming up. We think, maybe, possibly.
I don't know that I think it is, to be honest. I hope it is, but I really thought we'd turned a corner. I really did think we'd turned a big corner, and it turns out that we turned that corner and ran into a steam train that was coming in the other direction, which is a bit unfortunate. So we really need to pick ourselves up and dust ourselves off and turn another corner without a train hidden around it.
Very true. Well, I guess that's it for this week. I wasn't that negative, was it?
No, you weren't.
No. Well, we'll see where we go after this one. If United lose twice, the pressure will be on Mourinho.
Yeah, I mean...
we'll be calling for David Moyes once again to come and save us.
I did briefly cross my mind earlier today. What would happen if it doesn't work out with Mourinho?
Wayne Rooney will be manager.
Give it Giggsy to the end of the season.
Yeah, still not found a job yet, Giggsy. I guess he'll get one soon. All right, that's it from me and you for this week. I'm at United Rant on Twitter. Paul is at UTG Rantcast. You can find us on other social media platforms where we make very little effort, including Facebook and Google+, which apparently still exists. We are on patreon.com/Rantcast if you want to back us. Many of you have. Thank you very much. And coming up shortly for those of you who have is a special 15-minute or so segment on music, I think you said, Paul.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some albums that we love, which will hopefully cheer us up and act as a palate cleanser. And the Patreon helps to keep the show going. It helps to keep the show ad-free, pays producer Tom for the fantastic work that he does. And you can sign up at patreon.com/Rantcast if you want a bit more content right about now. Oh, play out track this week is a special one. Massive friend of the Rantcast, Awate, one of the two original friends of the Rantcast, in fact, has got new music out. Check him out on Spotify, on iTunes, on wherever you get your music from, and check him out on Twitter at Awate91. That's AWATE. He's on tour with Loki around the country at the moment, so see if he's playing near you. If hip hop is your bag, you should definitely check it out because it's amazing and it sounds like this.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.